Today on In Good Faith, I'm happy to be speaking with Ellen Skrmetti. She is the comic talent behind Hey Jesus, It's Me, Instagram sketches about a middle-aged Southern woman's opinions on mamas, menopause, and menus. She's based in Birmingham, Alabama. Ellen, thank you for speaking with me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a treat.
I'm just going to introduce, so people know you a little more, that you've trained with Second City, the improv troupe in Chicago. You have worked and do work as a stand-up comedian. And you've got your story in this new book I talked about, Hey Jesus, It's Me. I'm showing the cover because this is my new favorite color of pink. I don't quite know how to describe that. And why is she talking to a banana? We'll hear about that in just a second. Ellen, for a lot of people, COVID-19 kind of felt like the end of the world, but you started posting these short skits on your Instagram account. How did that pop into your brain?
Well, I wish I could just say that I have so much faith that I never wavered, even when the world shut down. There was a moment when I came home from Target, and I believe I was looking for alcohol and glycerin. Do you remember we were all trying to make our own hand sanitizer? And I couldn't find alcohol or hand sanitizer anywhere. And my husband met me outside, and I was getting out of the car. I was crying. And I said, it's over. It's all over. Because the Thursday before Alabama shut down was my first time to get on stage and do stand-up.
Wow.
After years of thinking I had stage fright, it was never going to happen. I finally got on stage. The owner of that club, which is now a medical office, said, "Oh, Ellen, let's do this every Thursday night." And then the next day it was over. So there were tears before that. But what happened is Second City in Chicago, they have a training center. They always only offered in-person classes. But like most people during COVID, they had to find a way to keep the doors open. So they offered online classes. So while I was a mother doing my children's homeschool or COVID learning, I was also taking Second City courses. And it was one day that my teacher said, "You guys are going to be so glad that you did this. We have people who've become so famous on the internet and they get booked into clubs and they don't have an act. Well, you guys are going to have an act." And I thought, well, my women and fun men, which is how I describe my audience, they are not just going to go to a comedy club and like, oh, let's see if there's a middle-aged woman telling funny stories about church and menopause. But I thought, but I know that they would come if they knew I was going to be there. So I just did the opposite. Whereas most people get the audience and then they learn an act. I learned an act and then started turning my stand-up sketches into online sketches. So as my audience grew, I was then able to start doing stand-up work and know that I could draw a crowd.
Well, there are people who've kind of made fun of what we might call church ladies in the past. You know, Dana Carvey and the church lady. That's 30 years ago. Maybe you were born. Probably you were born.
I was absolutely born, and can remember going to school the next day and all of my friends going, "Well, isn't that special?" You know, so yes, we would reenact the church lady sketches in school on Monday morning. Yes.
But you did this other take on it because you're seeing humor really in your own situation and of this certain generation of women. And that's got to have felt empowering as you must feel people saying, "Oh, yes, been there, done that. Thank you. You're speaking my life."
Oh, you are absolutely right. It felt so great the first time I did a sketch that was really based upon just the conversations I have heard my mother have day in and day out. And the conversations, my sketches always try to come from a place of love. And I think that's also the difference. Whereas I'm not making fun of a church lady, I'm celebrating them. They're beautiful for using their gifts of hospitality to try to make the church feel even more welcoming. But the first take I had on church lady humor was if the queen died in the South. And the premise was, you know, if depending on your age, if you're in your late 80s or 90s, your funeral will be planned, while you're possibly still alive. And everyone in my hometown, they have their freezers ready at any moment. So the first time I did that.
Wait, to preserve the body?
Well, no.
Or for the funeral food?
For the funeral food. I came in one time I came home and my mother was in the kitchen and there were 4 coconut cakes, pound cakes. Her kitchen was full. And I said, Mom, what is going on? And she just looked at me and said, somebody could be dying right now. I don't have anything in my freezer. So in my neck of the woods, we stay ready. Like, you will not creep up on us. Like, you could have a heart attack and we have something to pull out of our freezer. And so the premise of if the queen died in the South was just, okay, well, if she passes on this day, we'll have everything on this day. And we also had to get it done before football. And just to see so many people go, that's my mom. That's my grandmother. That I have heard my aunts have the same conversation. It just filled my heart that I'd really tapped into something by simply just repeating the things that I grew up hearing.
Mm. I think society's a lot more open to jokes about women aging and menopause. And I'm just wondering, because you use humor, is that how you get your foot in the door to really open up to different subjects?
Well, there is a saying in comedy that I learned at Second City, which is comedy is the lie that tells the truth. So you can take a subject as a joking matter, but still drive home a point. You just make it a little bit more palatable. And I like to call it hiding the medicine. And the reason why I like to talk about menopause and like to talk about what we're going through is because I watched my mother and everyone my mother's age and older, and even some people younger than my mother, we just called it the change. And it was this thing that was not talked about. And now that I'm going through it and I know how not fun it is, I don't want my daughter to have to just be told, oh, it's the change, it'll be fine. But really, you're not fine because there are all of these changes happening. So for me, if I can use comedy to make this period of life easier, I want to do it. And keep the conversation going, because it's truly amazing from my standpoint how diet changes and vitamins and a little hormone replacement therapy have really made me much easier to live with.
And presumably a better podcast guest. Thank you.
Right. Right. I don't have a hot flash right now. I am, a happy-go-lucky person, but thanks to vitamins and hormone therapy.
Well, you have this subtitle. So on your book, it's Hey, Jesus, It's Me. I have questions, comments, and concerns, which is, what the people ask you on a survey, like, how are we doing? As if Jesus had handed you a survey. So I want to ask about the first time you picked up your remote like a phone and you left, I guess, a voicemail for Jesus.
Yes. Well, the very first Hey, Jesus, It's Me, keep in mind, 3 years ago when I started, I was so scared to post and did not know what I was doing. And I hope anyone can learn from me. Don't let the fact that you don't know what you're doing keep you from doing it. Because everything is figure outable, which is what we say in my house. But I was doing this character, Kitty Potter, who worked at a TV station and was just giving updates. And I had a coworker named Kevin who never came into work. And so the very first Hey, Jesus, I asked the Lord if we were told to pray bold prayers in church. And I said, is praying for my coworker to have a tapeworm, is that bold enough or not bold enough? And that got a really good laugh. And then my second Hey, Jesus was, well, okay, if I can't pray for him to have one, what about me? Like, to lose weight. Could I do that? And it resonated with people. And I remember hearing in church that how the Lord wants our every day, and he wants to talk to us all the time. Like, there's no minimum, like you haven't reached your max amount of words that you can give to the Lord each day. And it just occurred to me, well, this could be a great reminder to people through comedy. Talk to Jesus about everything. He doesn't just want when our kids are sick or when we're sick or our, loved ones have something big. He wants the little stuff. So that has always been my hope through those sketches, is that it makes you laugh, but it reminds people he wants your questions, comments, and concerns. Talk to him, ask him.
When did you know that you'd really hit a nerve with people as they reacted? Was it just numbers, or were people writing to you?
The comments under each one, the hearts and the comments, and you could see that other people were sharing it with your friends. You get that data when you have a creator account. And so I knew, like, wow, people are really resonating with this. And it just, gave me the drive just to keep writing more and more Hey Jesus sketches. And then too, just to drill down of like, what are some more fun and funny things happening in the church? And one of those, I grew up with my mother being on committee on committees. And I can hear my mother leaving. I got to go. I got committee on committees tonight. Or, Ellen, catch a ride after Wednesday night church. We got committee on committees meeting. Well, I would talk about committee on committees. And some people that were Baptists, they knew exactly what I was talking about. Other people would say, how did you come up with that name? It's hysterical. And I said, oh, no, it is a Baptist committee where you're choosing the chairs and co-chairs of each committee. It is an aspirational committee because you don't have to move anything. You don't have to move chairs or tables. And your committee position is choosing other people to run the committees. So then I just, wanted to just celebrate that and how fun church can be.
So when you're doing these, who do you feel like it's just like you on steroids, or are you channeling someone like your mother?
Oh, I think it's just a heightened version of myself. I grew up, I talked about the church lady, and we would come back to school and we would impersonate the church lady. Well, I feel like I was probably the driving force of those impersonations. And so I've always loved to create characters in my head and impersonations and things like that. And with comedy, you can't be, you can't be so perfect. You have to do a heightened version of the person, because that heightened version is what makes it funny. The other thing too, though, about the South, I have to tell you, Steve, is that anytime I think I have made this so over the top, everyone will know that this is satire. I will have people who'll say, oh, I'll do you one better. I did a whole sketch about a daughter going through Rush at the University of Alabama. And I thought I'd made it so over the top that everyone would get it. And I had either mean comments, I can't believe you would say these things, or you would do these things to your daughter, or people would say, oh, honey, that's nothing. That's nothing. Let me tell you what happened to me. So it's probably me. So to answer your question, it's probably me on steroids and the voices in my head.
I'm going to quote you from your book. There's one little place in the introduction that I pulled something from I loved. You said you started, Hey, Jesus, it's me, in hopes it would remind people Jesus wants our laughter along with our tears. He's truly a loving God, wants to be part of every moment. And this line, though I have been asked many times for the number I'm calling, and if I can lend out my remote, I love that I don't need to. We all have a direct line already.
Yes, absolutely.
So to me, it's this mixture of comedy, but it really is with faith.
It is. It truly is. And I said when I talked to the publishers, I said, my goal is to truly hide the medicine in laughter. But I wanted a book that would make people laugh. And I wanted to write a book that would give insight into what it's like to grow up in the South in the 80s and all the crazy things that come with it. But my utmost prayer was that it would remind people to cling closer to Jesus, because this is no better time to do that than right now. And I think it's important that we have reminders that we don't have to be perfect to follow Jesus. We do not. And all we can do is keep trying to be better. So,
well, we can be thankful to ladies in the South for giving us all the bless their heart.
All bless
phrases.
Their hearts, which, as everyone I think now knows, can mean anything from "you're the greatest person ever" to "oh."
Ellen, I hesitate to say, could we be serious for a minute? Because I don't think we have to be, but I would love to delve a little into the house you grew up in and how it was a house of faith.
So it was truly a house of faith. Something that I heard when my oldest daughter was being baptized, someone said faith is caught and not taught. And in our house, it was definitely caught, because both of my parents were very active in the First Baptist Church. My brother and I did, we were there every time the doors were open. And we saw also what that life of faith, how it shaped our parents' lives, how their business was able to grow, how their love was able to grow. And it was amazing. Now, something that my brother and I have discussed at length is that growing up in a Christian home, we both gave our lives to Christ at a very young age. We married and had our families, but we each had something happen to us in our life, or an awakening in our life. And my brother said, when I called him to tell him about mine, and it was essentially, I had a situation where Jesus was all I had. And then I realized that was all I needed. And he said, you've just made Jesus your own. When I had that making Jesus my own moment, I feel like that was when all of my faith was renewed. And then that is what has driven me to where I am now.
You could decide if you're comfortable answering that. Can you tell me a little bit about that moment at that time?
It was just a period of time. I had a very young child. My husband and I were going through work changes. And as everyone can imagine, when you have a young child, you're just very concerned about how you're going to pay your bills, how things are going to come together. How far can you stretch your dollar? And, it's just it can be a very scary time for a young mother to figure these things out. And so that is pretty much the catalyst of what it was and what was happening.
A lot of people I know who are just naturally very funny, or at least I think they're funny. As I think about them, they've been through some stuff. Is that required to do? I mean, you have to obviously, I think you must be very observant of people to pick up on things. But I wonder if there has to be this certain empathy or sensitivity and really having gone through some stuff to grasp the humanity of it. I mean, that sounds so clinical. Ellen, why are you funny?
I do think that almost every comedian has gone through something that drives their empathy towards things and kind of shifts their view of how they see things. And there's just a different way that a comedian may see things, because they're always looking to find the humor. So, but also, Steve, I have a theory that I truly believe that people who can go very funny, that we also, if we're not watching our mental health and we're not taking care of ourselves, we can also go as low as we can go high.
Yeah.
So, and that is not a clinical, that is not, I have no doctor research. That is just me. If you think about, the great Robin Williams, who was one of the greatest comedians of our time. And then just to think about the level of sadness that he was carrying with him while he was making us all laugh.
Okay. And the church person in me and the Christian is saying, and Jesus descended below all things to lift us all up, which also means he must have a great sense of humor, and the sense of joy that God can feel must be unimaginable.
Yes. And, there's a saying, we plan and God laughs. I do believe that laughter is great medicine, and that he sent people to be able to dole out that medicine on earth. And so for me, when you talk about that, how high, you can go as high and you can go as low, for me, that's the reason why, exercise, but also staying close to the Lord is truly how I keep from going low, just because, this is a business where you get told no a lot more than you get told yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And you can read most of my negative comments. I just delete them because I don't want them. But man, especially in the beginning when people were realizing what I was doing, the comments are just awful. And, some of them would put me in the bed for hours. Like, I can't believe this person said this about me, or maybe they misinterpreted one of my jokes, or they just thought I was ugly and just, needed to make sure that I knew. So
bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Oh, boy. Well, it sounds like you've come to anyone who can ignore the comment section in a newspaper or especially your own page. You've come to a wise conclusion, I think.
Well, I tell people especially when people are starting out and they're doing this, and I'm like, listen, over time, if you pray about it and you give this, I can't handle these comments. When you give that to the Lord, the Lord will give you alligator-like skin that is so tough that they just roll right off. And I actually started to use those as writing practice of, how can I turn this into a positive? So sometimes if they would say something mean, I would say like, will you please, I can't hear you all the way up on your high horse, or just depending on what they were.
So Paul lists gifts of the Spirit. And he did not say a good sense of humor in there. In fact, we can't be sure Paul had a sense of humor. Maybe he did, but from the writings we have. Do you feel like your humor is a gift from God and part of the work you're here to do?
Okay, Paul. I love Paul. I don't think that Paul would laugh at me. I don't think that Paul would Paul would be like, Jesus, really? And he would be like, yes, really, I love her. And Paul would have to have one of my hats that says, Jesus loves you and I'm trying, is what Paul would wear if he. But no, truly, the fruits of the Spirit, those are for everyone. So Paul did get it right. He absolutely got it right. The fruits of the Spirit are for everyone and for everyone to enjoy. I view comedy as more of a gift. And so for me, I'm thankful that this is the gift that I've been given. And there are other people who can draw, people who can sing, people who are great scientists that are able to give us cures for, diseases and design new and different medical procedures. Those are gifts that they have prayed over and mastered. And so I view comedy as just more of a gift. And not everybody wants the gift. But I'm here for the people who want the gift.
Well, it's when I
hope that doesn't sound like, I'm saying I'm the gift. It's a beautiful thing. And I encourage anyone out there listening, if you haven't quite nailed down what your gift is to just pray about it and pray for the Lord to reveal what your gift is. And also, I wish I had better news that, someone would come with a great scroll and wake you in the morning and say, hear ye, I now bestow your gift from above is this. And now you should go and completely nurture this gift and go out into the world. I wish that was the case, but it will be a whisper on your heart. Mm-hmm. He won't tell your best friend. He won't tell your mother. So if you go tell your mother, this is my gift, be prepared. Your mother may say, no, it's not. I spent all those years on such and such lessons. So there's no way that this is your gift. So whatever your gift is, just know that a committee does not also get told your gift. So you may have to nurture your gift in silence and then let everybody else figure out like, wow, this person's really good at this. So that is my soapbox on finding your gift.
That's great advice. I kind of was dying to know what your talent was in the Miss Mississippi pageant.
Oh, well, I did musical theater. I sang Adelaide's Lament from Guys and Dolls.
A poison can develop
a cold. Yes, which was because they had to find something because I couldn't go too high or low. So they had to find something where I could use more of my acting skills as opposed to my singing. They tried to get me to do the xylophone because I did the xylophone 1 year in high school band and took a few years of piano, but I was horrible. But I had to stop everyone and say the only way you can do a xylophone in the Miss Mississippi or Miss America pageant is if you do like a circle of xylophones all around you and your mallets are on fire. And you may need to tap dance too. You know, like I was like, I don't have that level. And they're like, okay, we're going to do Adelaide's Lament. And then the funny thing is that art imitated life because my husband, we dated for 4 years before we got married. And it was like, I mean, are we going to do this? Are we like I am living my talent right now, waiting on you to propose. But it all worked out.
I'm glad it worked out.
It all worked out.
I'm wondering, what do you know now about God that you didn't know when you were a young girl, even though you had decided that I believe and I'm committed? What have you learned in these intervening years?
From the time when I was a little girl to now, or from the time I started with comedy to now?
Whichever. Okay. What comes to mind for you?
You know, from the time that I started, I feel like starting this journey, I have grown so much closer to Christ through this. I had tried to do comedy so many ways by myself. Mm-hmm. There's a particular comedy formula that everyone knew from our 80s and 90s comedians. You know, Jerry Seinfeld started, you know, you go to New York and you go to club and they give you 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. And then somebody says, hey, let this guy headline, and you go that route. And that's the route I really thought that I would go for stand-up. But as we said earlier, I finally get on stage and COVID shuts it down. Yeah. So when I finally got the courage to start posting online, my prayer every day and every night was, dear Lord, do something so big, it could only be you. And the idea behind that, the reason why I prayed that prayer is I'd heard of people who prayed these limiting prayers. And I had noticed if I said, Lord, get me through this situation, I got through the situation. Lord, help me through this. And he helped me through this. So I thought, you know, he's answered everything I've ever asked. It may not have been the way I thought that it should be, but he's always answered. He's never failed me or my family. So I thought, how about instead of just saying, you know, Lord, get me on stage for 10 minutes or get me 10 minutes of stage time, get me 5 minutes of stage time. What if I just prayed this completely non-limiting prayer and let's see what happens? And I had to tell you, it is the reason why I'm here. It's the reason why we're talking to each other. At about 20,000 followers, because if the Queen Died in the South really blew up my page, I had posted for 9 months with virtually nothing happening. I had told my husband, I said, if I die before anyone knows I'm funny, will you please put on my headstone, she died trying. And tell my kids I died trying, because I don't want my kids to ever give up on whatever their dreams are. Well, I just kept posting after the Queen Died in the South. And about October, I was really getting tired of just every day coming up with new content. And so I did a repost from the summer because I thought, well, no one's seen it. I didn't have hardly any followers before I did that. So at about 20,000 followers, I reposted a Hey Jesus, It's Me about a friend who was 40, thought she was going through the change and come to find out she was pregnant. And at the end, I say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and then follow up with, well, what if I don't want to? And that reel went viral after I had a bigger audience. Well, in my hidden messages in my inbox was a book agent who said, I think you're so funny. Can we talk? I would love to work with you on a book. Well, she wasn't just any book agent. She's one of the best book agents in the business, and got me a, mom in Birmingham who was just trying to make people laugh on the internet. she got me interviews with the top 4 publishers in the world. And then of all things, when I signed with Hachette, the publisher Daisy, who I love, she went to Ole Miss, which is 45 minutes from where I grew up. So the way I have just learned to never underestimate the way the Lord can weave your journey for his good. Like he will take you. So whoever out there is listening, especially if you have a dream or somebody said, oh, it takes 5 years, it takes 10 years. Now, this is not. Now, if your dream is to be a doctor, I'm going to need you to do all the years. I'm talking about entertainment. So if you're out there thinking, she's right, I don't have to go to school to be a doctor. That's not what I mean. I need you. And if you're going to be an accountant, I need you to go to school, or an architect. But if you're wanting to be in entertainment and somebody has said, oh, it takes years, it's going to take years. Not with the Lord. It doesn't. It can all change overnight. He can change your position and where you are.
I love that idea of an unlimited or unlimiting prayer, because that could apply to so many different things besides just what you're talking about.
Yes. I had heard a story where someone said, imagine you get to heaven and the Lord opens a door and it's full. And he says, these are all the gifts I had for you on earth. And all you had to do was ask. So I just mentally try to remind myself, okay, I want that door to be empty. I want the Lord to say, you gave everything I gave you. You know, like that's
beautiful. Yeah.
And it's, it's true. Like and I have to remind myself sometimes when I get tired and I maybe not wanting to post a reel, I'm like, well, it's not about you. Like there are people out there who need a laugh, and there are people who don't like my humor, and I hope the people who don't like me understand that if you make a comment, the algorithm can't read. So you're just going to be fed more of my comedy and people like me, which also gives me great joy.
Yes, a certain almost righteous joy.
Yeah. So if you're like, I hate this. And I'm like, well, have I got news for you? Your next few days are going to be awful because you just engaged with my post and I'm about to be everywhere. But all that to say is that, yes, I hope that I'm using the gifts that he gave me just to help make other people laugh and get through their days.
Yeah, well, it has worked for me, and I'm not even in menopause.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, you don't have to be in menopause to laugh with me.
Ellen Skrmetti is the comic talent between Hey Jesus, It's Me, Instagram sketches about kind of people like her, and she's the author of this book, Hey Jesus, It's Me. I have questions, comments, and concerns. What a delight. Thank you for taking time today. I really appreciate it. And that you not only share the humor, but also kind of the deep place it comes from in your faith.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.